right, folks. Welcome on back to the 4th and 30 podcast. Glad to have you again with us here this week. If you hear me coughing or yakking, that's because I've been sick for a week. But I'm not going to let it get me down. This is my Jordan flu game.
Did you get tested? Because you're sitting right next to me.
You're welcome. Turkey's probably screwed. But, had another week in the NFL, had some good Thanksgiving games and some good games on Sunday. We are getting down to brass tacks, though. I mean, we're 2/3, I guess, with 18 weeks. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. So, it's kind of nut up or shut up time in the NFL. But there were some good things. There were some bad things. And there are some future things that might happen. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. Who wants to start with a good? Who has an uplifting good from week 12? Lift our spirits.
I don't know if I'll lift everyone's spirits with my good, but my good is the Bengals.
That doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it might not lift the spirits of the group. But I actually wanted to put my bad as the Steelers, but I have too good of a bad, so I had to put my good as the Bengals. The Bengals, not only do they have a young quarterback, not only do they have a young receiving core, not only do they have a coach they feel like they can rely on, it's either them or the Ravens have the best outlook in the AFC North going forward. Not just for this year. The Bengals are ahead of schedule competing this year, and the Bengals they look like they're set. Their defense is good. They're a young team pretty much throughout the entire team. They have a young quarterback. I mean, in a division that's been ran by the Steelers and Ravens for the last since we can remember, the Bengals look like they're in a good spot. And on the inverse of that, the Steelers might be the worst team in the division this year, and they have the worst outlook going forward. That being said, the Steelers are the Steelers, and they're a well-ran organization, and things can change really quick in the NFL. But the Bengals, I mean, you can't count against having Lamar Jackson and Jim Harbaugh as your coach, but it's either the Ravens or the Bengals look like the best team in that division going forward, and the Steelers, on the inverse, might be in the worst position in the division going forward.
Yeah, the Bengals, honestly, I would take, even though they're not leading the division right now, the Bengals have proven enough to me that I think they're the team to beat in this division. I mean, the Ravens have been scraping by with Lamar. The Bengals just have a better roster than anybody in this division, and it's not close.
Yeah. The roster's good on every aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about the Bengals here, I'm not going to get into the Steelers yet, but yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow didn't really have to do much last week, but he was very, very efficient. When they did ask him to throw, he was 20 out of 24, threw for less than 200 yards. You're going to do that when you're averaging about 8 yards a carry, but credit Burrow. All he has to do is limit his turnovers, because when that team gets into trouble, it's when he's throwing interceptions. But ride Joe Mixon. I said it before the season, one of the most underrated backs in the league is Joe Mixon. We said it in our AFC North preview, and he's proven it. He's stayed more healthy this year. He's bulked up a little bit. He seems a little bigger, but he's still got the speed, the shiftiness. The Bengals are a scary team. You do not want to play the Bengals in the playoffs. I don't think anybody wants to play that team just because of how well-rounded they are.
It's crazy. They did to the Steelers what the Steelers have done to them for the last decade. They just ran it down their throats. They out-physicaled them in every possible way. And when you have Minkah Fitzpatrick playing as a fourth linebacker, doesn't even get to do what he does best because nobody
leads the team in tackles.
Yeah, nobody else can tackle. You're literally taking your best aspect of your defense away from you. You're not even putting him in passing situations ever. The Bengals just out-physicaled them in every way.
Do you think we'll see more teams that have a young quarterback like a Burrow go get his running buddy, his wide receiver running buddy from college? Now that you could argue that, Burrow's good on his own. He is. You can argue that Chase is good on his own. He is. And together they just work. But to have, somebody for your young quarterback that can give you that confidence factor, you think we'll see more teams do that have these young guys?
Aren't there 3 teams with it right now? Jalen Hurts through to what's his
Devontae
name?
Smith,
and then Tua Tagovailoa through
Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle in college. So there's 3 teams right now that have done it.
It's most certainly not a bad idea when you got 2 elite guys at those 2 positions.
The only problem with that is you have to be getting it from a really good college. They have to be getting it from LSU, Alabama, those powerhouse teams, and you kind of have to fall that way for it to happen like that. But I mean, if it can fall that way,
Well, you need your wide receiver to be 1 year behind your quarterback is what you need. See, different drafts.
Yeah. With the Bengals talk, I thought the Bengals' future going into this year was really, really bright. A year from now, 2 years from now, I thought they'd be where they're at this time next year, or maybe the year after that. But they've turned it on quick with a bunch of young guys. If you had to ask me right now, preseason wise, I'd say flip the Browns and the Bengals. Flip their records, flip the way they're playing. I really thought the Browns would be doing what the Bengals are doing right now. And the Browns have they've browned their opportunity away in the division. The last 2 years were their chance the Steelers were down from the dominance they've had over the last 20 years in that division. The Ravens are still good, but not dominant. And the Browns just browned away their chance. 2 top 10 running backs, a good wide receiving core, and a dog water quarterback. And they let it go. Browns are going to brown. Bengals good on the Bengals. I like to see a young team like that doing well. I don't have a favorite team in that division, so I just want to see good football, and the Bengals are doing that right now.
Well, and as a Steelers fan, if there was one other team in that division as a Steelers fan that you root for, it's probably the Bengals. That's probably the most less heated rivalry out of the three. You definitely hate the Ravens, and the Browns are the Browns. So I'm happy for Joe Burrow and those guys. They deserve it. But one more thing is, Kelsey said the Steelers might have the worst outlook in this division. Come on, dude. I get why you say that on paper, but we're talking about the Browns here.
the Browns are the Browns, and they'll probably find a way to be worse.
So
but
I'm gonna put the Steelers as third on that list.
So I saw one today on ESPN, and I already know how the votes in this group will go. But right now, people are saying, you gave away OBJ for absolutely nothing, and the Browns would be better off with OBJ and Case Keenum and the 3rd round pick they could have got for Baker Mayfield. And I agree with that.
I can get on board with that.
You don't trade Baker. I think I would be fine with Case Keenum starting right now, the way Baker's playing and how he's clearly injured. Going to Case Keenum wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't think you want to trade away Baker, though. And I don't think Baker – I think Baker is somewhere in the middle. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people say he is, but I also don't think he's as bad as you guys say he is sometimes. I think he's –
because sometimes he's not as bad as we say he is, and sometimes he's worse than we say he is.
The 32nd best quarterback in the NFL is better than the first best wide receiver in the NFL for your team. So you wouldn't keep OBJ to get rid of a quarterback. It's just not going to happen.
I think you could leave OBJ out of that vote and just say Case Keenum should be the starter, and they would be better. They could be better off. Baker Mayfield, something's happened to Baker Mayfield. He's struggling. Maybe some time on the bench would do him some good. Yeah, everybody's injured this time of year, though. I'm not using injuries as an excuse for the Steelers, so I'm not using it for anybody else.
I'm not using it as an excuse for the Browns. I'm saying that an injured guy is affected by his injuries. I'm not saying the Browns are...
He's also just not seeing the field, though. He's not making good reads. He's not getting rid of the ball.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying Baker with a good run game, which they have going forward, and an offensive line and a defense, which their defense has been playing really well. Going forward, the Browns have the recipe. This is not going to be their year with Baker. I agree with that. But going forward, they will be fine. No, they should be fine. I'm not going to say they will be. They should be fine.
Well, we got a little off topic there, but the Browns were my bad, so we can just squash that.
There we go. One good and one bad out of the way.
50-50. We like to give you a good mix here on 4th and 30. My good this week, another team, going to be a little weird, the Dolphins, right? So just hear me out. They won their first game to start the year. I believe that was the Ravens. And then they lost 7 in a row. So, not good, 1-7, but they've since won 4, so they're sitting at 5-7.
They beat the Patriots week 1
by 1 point. Patriots week 1. But they have beat the Ravens this season. And they do have some bad losses in that 7. So, lost to the Jags and lost to the Falcons, both in very close games, but you lost them. But they're sitting at 5-7. They've got the Giants and the Jets coming up, and that's to get to 7-7 with 3 games left. And then you've got at the Saints, who are not playing the greatest right now, but they've got a good defense. At the Titans, who's not playing that greatest right now. And then you got the Pats at home, week 18. So there's an outside chance in the AFC this year that a team that was 1-7 after week 8 makes a playoffs in the wild card. And that's good on the Dolphins. Tua, I know he's been in and out, but he has a 70.5% completion rating this year. That's pretty damn good. Xavier Howard, he's not on the tear that he was last year with all those interceptions in a row, but he's got 3 INTs and 2 forced fumbles this year. So that, the Dolphins defense is hanging in there. Tua is not playing bad when he can play. I don't know. The Dolphins are trending upward at the moment. And yes, they're still 5-7, but I'm not going to count them out. I think they're going to try to make that push.
Yeah, they've made a nice. Oh, go ahead.
The AFC's on some NFC shit this year. Teams going, 7-8, 8-7 this year are going to have no, my math's off. 8-9 or 9-8 are going to have a chance to make the playoffs in the AFC, and that's the most NFC shit I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, go ahead, Gills.
Yeah, the Dolphins are playing well. The only thing I would say, and Tua, the last 5 weeks, I saw a stat, the last 5 weeks, he's like 16th in the league in QBR, which is impressive given that they have no run game, no receivers, and a horrid offensive line. But because of what I just said, I don't think the Dolphins have a chance. They just lack weapons on the offensive side. Tua has I've been a huge Tua critic since he's been in the NFL. He's played very well the last 5 weeks. But I just don't see especially with the Patriots and the Bills ahead of them in the division, I find it hard to believe that 3 AFC East teams could possibly make the playoffs.
I mean, you come into Christmas Day at 500, anything can happen.
It could happen. I just find it hard to believe.
Yeah, the Dolphins, they've found something. They've found a rhythm. They're playing winning football. That's their recipe for success. And, the AFC was looking like, you were going to have to go 2 games over 500 to make the playoffs. It's not going to be like that. There's a lot of teams sitting at 6-5 vying for that 7th wild card spot. Those teams are going to lose some games. The wild card's probably going to be around 9-8, maybe even 8-9. It's very possible. Dolphins are not out of it, but things like this do happen. They're the team I was hoping the Steelers would be. Find your groove at this point in the season. Go on a run, and they have. And yeah, I think they're very much in the wild card spot.
Has any team that's ever started 1-7 ever made the playoffs?
I'm going to say no.
Probably not in a 16-game schedule. The 17th game helps.
The Chiefs were 1-5, I think, in 16 when Jamal Charles went down, and then wheeled off 10 in a row to win their division.
Well, the Dolphins could reel off 9 in a row if they want to. Just saying.
It'd be impressive.
It would be impressive. But we all were, I'm pretty sure, at the beginning of the season. Sorry, I lost my voice earlier, so I'm just had a crack there. I'm not going through puberty or nothing. Pretty sure at the beginning of the season, we were all fairly high on the Dolphins. Maybe not to win the AFC East, but we all figured that they would compete for the wild card at least. So I don't think it's out of the realm. And they're still the same Dolphins. They just had a rough stretch there for a second. So
we need to have the guy from Get Up back on to talk about his Dolphins.
Alrighty.
Moving on. Okay, so on to my good. And I'm going to start with a little negative to my good. Anybody knows me knows there's 3 things I am a signed up hater to. Fernando Tatis Sr., Jason Tatum, and the Dallas Cowboys. So my good is what the Washington football team is doing right now. And they're looking like, maybe not so much as what the football team's doing as opposed to what Dallas is not doing, but that division might become a race after this week. Washington's got Seattle at home. Or no, not Seattle. That was last week.
Washington's playing the Raiders.
They've got the Raiders.
But I'll tell you why that's a loss coming up in my future.
Okay. And Dallas has the Saints, who they're going to have to stop them defensively, because the Dallas's offense is really, really good. But I don't know. I mean, after this week, there could be one game separation between those two teams. So I'm excited for that.
The only team in the NFC that went undefeated in November, the Washington football team.
That's
so you're
wild.
not wrong. You're not wrong there. They're making it competitive.
It's funny, though, because last week we talked about how can the Eagles catch the Cowboys, and now we're talking about the football team, and it just sounds like we really want somebody to catch the Cowboys on this podcast. Which the Cowboys are making it possible. They're not winning games, so, I mean, not making it easy on themselves.
I mean, let's not count Washington out, though. This is what they did last year. Now, granted, they didn't have to win as many games, but I think they have a better record now than they did last year at this time. So, they did it last year. Why couldn't they do it again? I mean, the Cowboys have a tough schedule coming up. Cowboys give up the 7th most yards in the league. That defense is starting to look like not the defense they had for the first half of the year. Starting to look like more like the Cowboys defense.
Micah Parsons does look like a long-term asset.
Yes, he does.
Him and Diggs are good. Him and Diggs are all pro players.
So, and go back to the football team. It's definitely 1,000% in their hands because they have Raiders, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants. So,
Oh, wow.
So it is
5 division games to finish up the season.
Cowboys twice and Eagles twice. That's
and
wild.
then alternating weeks. Like they play 2 of them in 4 weeks, or 2 teams in 4 weeks.
I thought the Chiefs still had a lot of division games left, and they have 4.
Yeah, that's win it or lose it right there. That's wow.
It's set up to be exciting. It might not. The Cowboys might win out. The Eagles and football team might split, but it is set up to be very exciting. Heard it here first.
The NFC East is going to be close come week 15. Breaking news.
You heard it here first, folks.
So my good is the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco 49ers are on a 4-game win streak, and their offense has looked like the 49ers offense of the past. Kyle Shanahan's getting things going. We all talked about it even when they were struggling. Kyle Shanahan is a good offensive coach, and he's got their playmakers. Now, it's going to be interesting to see Deebo Samuel is going to be out this week if their offense can continue that. But 49ers have put themselves right back in the playoffs, right back in the into the wild card spot. So when everybody thought they were down, they've kind of picked up slack.
Don't they have the Rams this week, too?
They do have a struggling Rams team.
They have the Seahawks this week.
They have the Seahawks this week. Okay, yeah.
They have a pretty favorable schedule.
I knew it's a division team.
Seahawks, Bengals, Falcons, Titans, Texans, Rams.
So Bengals, Rams all those teams are struggling except for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean that's favorable. But like we said
favorable.
earlier, we were high on the Dolphins to begin the podcast, or to begin the season. We were high on the Niners too, respectively. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody was on the Rams train, but like, it's not a surprise if the Niners make the playoffs. They were supposed to. So
I think all 3 of you had Seahawks, Rams, and Niners all in the playoffs, and I had Niners, Rams, and Cardinals in the playoffs.
Well, no one told me Russell Wilson was going to be dog water to start the year. Or
I hope somebody
nobody told me
because I would love to talk about him.
I mean, he's not the reason they're struggling.
I know, but there's
Really?
been a lot of talk of it in the group chat.
Well, we all know why that is.
They had 18 yards rushing this week and 1 run for a first down.
Yeah, I know exactly how that feels.
It's not Russell
I've
Wilson.
seen that for about 2 years, 3 years now. I've watched that style of play. Anyways,
I digress.
yeah.
the Niners
into
are
it.
set up to be good, and it's not a surprise to anybody that they're going to do their thing. They have found that guy in Deebo Samuel, the kind of 5-tool guy. So yeah, he might be hurt right now, but he'll come back, and they obviously have a good tight end, and so they're set up. It's just, I don't think it's a surprise at this point. Kind of like the Dolphins aren't a surprise to me because they were kind of supposed to be there. And I'm glad that it's kind of shaking out after this wild ass year we've had in the NFL this year, that is kind of coming full circle to these teams that like we kind of expected to be playoff teams at the beginning of the season, and then just looked like poo poo for the last 10 weeks. And I'm finally excited that it's starting to shake out, that we weren't complete buffoons talking to you guys every week.
Yeah, the spot the Dolphins and Niners are in right now is not a surprise to me. The road to how they got there is the surprise to me. I
You can
never
say the
would.
same thing about the Chiefs too. Like
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
a crazy season in the NFL. It's just been wild. But it all works out. It all ends up exactly where we said it would be at the beginning of the
And
season.
that's one of the
We
beautiful
didn't
things
think it was right.
about football is I know there's the any given Sunday where any team can beat any team, which is true in any professional sport. But normally in football, the cream always rises over the course of a game. You know, there is your upsets, there is your big upsets, but there's just been so many of them this year. It's made the NFL kind of wonky.
And then I'm going to go ahead and box you guys out and go ahead into my bad just so we can stay into the NFC West. The Rams are my bad. So yeah, they're 7-4. Sounds great, but they've lost 3 in a row. They scored 11 in the fourth against the Packers to make it even close. You know, they had a worse record in November than the Lions. Let that sink in. That's bad, right? So they have a get-right game coming. They have the Jaguars this week. That's your get-right game. Figure it the hell out.
Your last chance,
if
probably.
Because if you don't, your next games are the Cards, Seahawks, you should win. The Vikings, not an easy out. The Ravens, not an easy out. And the Niners to finish your season. So yeah, you'll probably still make the wild card, but you're going to regret getting there because you're going to just be on the biggest downturn of your life.
Yeah, the Rams need to figure it out because if they fail this season, it's not just bad for this year. It's going to multiply. Like, it's bad times 10 for them compared to any other team because they've traded away all their draft picks. You know, they've signed these veterans to big money who are veterans, and it's football. They're not going to really last, forever. And having no draft capital, that's suicide. And you wonder if karma is coming back to their owner, Mr. Kroenke, for how he handled the St. Louis situation. But it's they better be figuring it out, and I know there's some stressed out people in that organization.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, karma is almost undefeated. So Kroenke's, even though I wasn't a St. Louis Rams fan, the city of St. Louis, there's a lot of double cat's ass whammies being cast on him after that whole debacle.
Why did St. Louis settle? What the
know.
hell was that about? They could have got so much
everyone
more
thought they were
money.
going to go for the NFL's throat, and they really didn't.
Well, they've got a lawsuit right now.
No, they
No, it's
settled.
over. They settled.
Oh, they did settle?
They settled for
last
like
week.
$790 million, and they could have got billions with a B. Like
B.
I'd take $790 million.
billions with a B.
I don't know how far I'd press my luck there.
So the Rams, we've talked about this a little bit already, but you want to hear the Rams wins this year? The Bears, the Colts when they were struggling the second week of the season, they beat the Buccaneers, and then they lost to the Cardinals, beat the Seahawks, beat the Giants, beat the Lions, beat the Texans, lost to the Titans, lost to the Niners, lost to the Packers. I think we may have jumped the gun just a little bit on the Rams. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they might not be as good as we originally thought.
You guys were on my ass when I had the Rams at 11th.
It wasn't me. It was
When
one
I had the
guy.
Rams at 11th.
Guilty as
on the
charged.
preseason poll. You guys were hounding me. So
I did have them higher than that, though. I did. I think
Everybody did. Yeah.
we all had them higher. And I think, and I know the guy next to me doesn't want to hear this, but I don't think Matt Stafford's quite the upgrade that we thought he was going to be. He has, honestly, he's put them in some bad situations this year with turning the ball over.
No. First to address that is, that guy on TikTok has been calling Jared Goff the ghost of Matt Stafford. Well, this week he started calling Matt Stafford the ghost of Jared Goff. And I agree. Weeks 1 through 5, 6, 7, he looked like the MVP of the league. Since then, he has not played that well. I'm still a Matt Stafford fan. I still have faith in him, but he has not looked good. I'm not even going to try to argue that he has or that it's somebody else's fault. But the Rams are in bad shape. Von Miller had that tweet or Instagram post or whatever, said he went to bed 4-4 or whatever and woke up 7-1. Well, you fell asleep November 1st and you woke up December 1st 7-4. So
And the Broncos are 6-5 now.
Yeah.
Wait. Are they?
Yes.
What are they? 6-5.
6-5.
Yeah, 6-5. Yeah.
So
But the Rams defense, this defense is just all these
I was getting ready to say
star-studded
that.
names. So 15th in yards per game, 17th in points per game, 9th in rush yards allowed per game, and 21st in passing yards allowed per game. That is not the rankings you would expect
not
for the
from that payroll.
star-studded defense.
Yeah. And
Especially with how well they were, how good they were last year.
And to me, Ingram for the Chiefs has done what I thought Von Miller would do for the Rams. Like, if you'd have told me those two were going to be acquired by each team, I would think that Ingram would help the Chiefs, but not maybe have the impact that he's had so far. And that Von Miller would absolutely make the Rams defense unstoppable. And
Ingram
don't think
hasn't
that-
really done anything, has he?
I think he's helped a lot.
Ingram
he has
took a lot
he has
from
like
pass rush.
2 tackles and no sacks.
But we were not getting pressure before.
He definitely has.
He definitely helps from just the pressure aspect. But anywho,
We're not
Chris
going to
Jones.
say Ingram's had no success in Kansas City when people were touting J.J. Watts had success in Arizona when he didn't do a damn thing. So
6 tackles
think-
and 1 sack.
I think you hate J.J. Watt more than I hate Jason Tatum.
it's a possibility. No, you're pretty hard on Tatum.
So I think the
Shout out.
Chiefs
NBA
the
season
Chiefs is
starts
a little
in
bit
24
twofold.
days.
It's not just the fact that Melvin Ingram came to Kansas City. It's also the fact that Nick Bolton and Willie Gay have been getting more reps at
It's-
linebacker. We've been better against the run game, which has put teams in passing situations. So then that gives us
Okay.
opportunity to get to the quarterback.
We talked about this on an episode about sacks coming from D tackles or D ends, right?
Yeah, and I said
Chris Jones moved back to the D tackle position. That's been the change in the
And
Kansas
is on
City
a tear.
defense.
Well, he actually hasn't moved back to the D tackle position. They've been moving him around, which doesn't allow teams to
He's
game
playing
plan.
Actually-
much more from the D tackle position than he was prior.
Yes, he
And
is.
his production has shot way up.
It has, but I think it's because he's moving around more. He did not do good at D.
I think it's because he's a
maybe
D tackle.
So this kind of got hijacked from the Rams to the Chiefs. So while we're on the topic of the Chiefs, agreed, Willie Gay and Nick Bolton continuing to get better as the season goes on somehow. When he started off amazing, has helped. Ingram has helped. The D
Juan
tackle.
Thornhill instead of Dan Sorensen, Chris Jones.
Oh, that's where I was going. Chris Jones and the D line playing better. God, I'm having brain farts on names right now. Frank Clark has helped. But all this boils down to the same time that Sorensen got yanked and Juan Thornhill got put in. And that Fenton has been underratedly good this year. I think Pro Football had him ranked as like the 3rd best corner since week 7 or something like that in the NFL.
It's all
Spagnuolo defenses have a history of catching fire, though. Like, they start slow, finish fast.
All I was saying was that it's all worked together because we're better we were terrible against the run early on. Now we can stop the run, which puts teams in passing situations, which is what Spagnuolo's defense wants to do. They want to put teams in passing situations so they can get after the quarterback. And early on, we couldn't do that. Teams were averaging literally 12 yards of play on first down against us, which is asinine. But for like the first 5 weeks, we were allowing 12 yards of play on first down.
I think that's more ass of 10, but
All right. So was that your bad, how good the Kansas City Chiefs defense is, and it's bad for the rest of the NFL, or do you have a bad?
Are you talking about me?
Any one of you two down there?
no.
My bad is not related to the NFL, so you guys better go ahead because I'm going to change the subject.
NBA season doesn't start for another 20.
It's not NBA.
Okay. Well, you guys know what my bad is. It wasn't the Browns.
Oh.
It's the Steelers. It is. And I'm going to talk like Stephen A. Smith. No, I'm just kidding. So going back to, okay. So the Steelers, the NFL has changed all year. Dolphins, we already talked about all that. I mean, the Steelers are still 5-5-1 in the race for a playoff seed. They're not out of that. But when you think back, I feel like this game was kind of the nail in the coffin for them because if you go back to 2016 in the playoffs, when they played the Jacksonville Jaguars and had all that talent, what did the Jaguars do? They ran for over 200 yards. The Steelers defense could not stop the Jaguars offense. And we're talking about the Jaguars offense, the same one that was less than average. In 2017, no, that was in 2017, I'm sorry. 2016, they got walloped by the Patriots in the AFC Championship. 2018, no playoffs. They lost 4 of their final 6 games to miss the playoffs. In 2019, yeah, Big Ben got hurt. Somehow they still finished 8-8. Somehow Tomlin has a way of getting wins when he shouldn't. But they also lost 4 of their last 5 games that year to finish 8-8. And then last year, one and done, we know what happened to the Browns. Their defense just got gashed on the run. Just absolutely demolished. Yesterday or Sunday, same thing, absolutely demolished. I think something needs to be said for this. And I think Kelsey would probably agree with me here. A lot of those playoff teams over the last 5-6 years, it was their offensive talent bailing them out to get them there. Their defense wasn't really that good. And their defense, this is all mainly about defense. Their defense was expected to carry them this year. They're ranked like 23rd in defense. They give up the 24th most yards in the league and the 21st most rushing yards. So I think the Steelers, I don't know how they're 5-5-1 at this, honestly. I think somehow Tomlin has a way of getting wins, like I said, but you have to wonder what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that team? Because they have players. Do they not have enough players, or is it scheme?
Well, there's a couple things. One, if you're talking about just your defense, your run defense is terrible, and you're not physical at all. Teams are literally just running it down your throat right now. You have a great pass rush, and if you can it's kind of like I said with the Chiefs. If you can put teams in passing situations, they're not going to succeed. But teams are just running it down your throat right now. Like the last 3 weeks, you guys have given up
over 4 weeks, it's over 180 yards a game.
I think the last 3 weeks, it's like 700 yards rushing.
If you go back a full 17 game schedule, they've been outgained on the ground by 1,000 yards. 1,000.
That's bad.
That's insanely bad.
So
Yeah,
the Steelers
but we
is January 3rd against the Browns. And what I think they should do is just go ahead and hang Ben Roethlisberger's jersey on top of Heinz Field, so that way everybody can just kind of close the chapter and move on, because that's legitimately what's wrong. So,
he doesn't want to listen to that, though.
Yes, you don't have a rushing game, but
there is much more problems than the quarterback.
He's no longer capable of keeping your team on the field. Those little dink and dunk passes, he's throwing them on the ground. Something's wrong, and it's because he's done. He's been great for Pittsburgh. Like I said, he's a Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong, but his time is done.
I agree with you that his time is done, but it's not because of his talent level. It's because of the roster that they have around him. If they were still a championship caliber team, Big Ben is the answer to this team, not Mason Rudolph.
Well, I don't think Mason Rudolph's the answer either, but you're not a championship caliber team with Ben at quarterback. I've been trying to tell you this, and I'm not trying to be mean. Watch it, Kyler. Just watch the next game with an open mind. He misses so many throws; it's not even funny, and they're not close. He overthrows guys. Some of his arm is.
He has one of the worst rosters in the league, and statistically is still one of the closest to average quarterback in the league.
He has 3 above average receivers and a good running back. And a good tight end. You rate tight end all the time.
Russell Wilson sucks dick right now. What excuse are you going to make for him? It's a team. It's not about the quarterback.
The Seahawks are playing
the
bad.
narrative is not about Russell Wilson for them. He can still play.
Now. It is starting to change.
No, Russell Wilson can still play football.
The difference is Russell Wilson's a lot younger than Ben, too.
Right.
Why would they move on from Russell Wilson?
Okay. Russell Wilson's playing just fine. He looks good. He's putting up. It's not about the quarterback in Pittsburgh. They don't have anybody else to plug in there. It's about the rest of the team. They've been outgained on the ground by 1,000 yards over 17 games. How in the world you would pin that entirely on the quarterback is beyond me.
Nobody's pinning it entirely on the quarterback.
That's all you and Carl just talked about.
That's literally all your defense was atrocious. But your offense can't stay on the field to save their life.
Right. If we had someone other than Big Ben back there, it would make a huge difference.
So
let's put Russell Wilson back there. Let's go
You
get
would
him.
definitely be better with Russell Wilson than Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know what you're smoking.
So Pittsburgh's problem is Big Ben is average at best right now. Average at best. But Ben Roethlisberger is old, fat, and cannot move, and their offensive line cannot block anybody. Ben Roethlisberger, on majority of plays, has 0.2 seconds to throw the ball before somebody is trying to knock his helmet off. And that's not a recipe for success for the Pittsburgh Steelers or for Ben Roethlisberger. And so I think if you gave him somebody else's offensive line that was good, I think Ben could still be slightly above average. He does look horrible at times. Like, I agree, he throws passes 5 yards into the dirt. I've seen it. I've been watching their games all year. But if you guys were back there and had 330-pound nose tackles and 250-pound DNs, 280-pound DNs running at you every possession, not knowing how much time you had, you'd probably be a little skittish with your throws too.
Oh, I'd be 0 for 250. Like, yeah.
So the Seahawks average more rushing yards per game than the Steelers, and Big Ben and Russell Wilson's QBR are pretty much are right at the same. So if you're telling me Big Ben needs to retire, then you're telling me Russell Wilson needs to retire.
No, Russell Wilson.
If you're telling me Big Ben's the problem, then you're telling me Russell Wilson's the problem in Seattle. It's exactly what you're telling me.
It's not what I'm telling you, but okay.
That is exactly what you guys are saying.
That's not what we were saying, but okay.
It's pretty much the same exact situation.
It's not close to the same situation. The Steelers okay. You can believe what you want, bud.
Go ahead. Prove your point.
Moving on.
Tyler, last year, Ben Roethlisberger had the most completions in the NFL and finished like 16th in passing yards. He can't throw the ball past 5 yards. He has no arm left.
He's completed plenty of passes 40 yards downfield this season when there's time to throw the ball.
Hey, look up the throw to Chase Claypool. That tells you all you need to know. Last week, he had that bomb to Chase Claypool that Claypool had to turn around and run backwards for. Like, he can't throw the ball downfield. Yes, he'll complete one or two, but they are usually the worst pass you've ever seen in your life.
Okay. So
yeah. All right, we need another bad in here.
Yeah, two things. So my bad is Kyle Larson winning the NASCAR Cup. That is just not okay. I'm joking.
I have no opinion.
I was like, wait, what? What's he talking about?
No, I'm gonna move on, and I'm gonna go ahead and predict Kelsey's bad right here. I was sitting here like, oh, it's not football, it's not NBA, and then it just dawned on me. It's Duke losing last night.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not? Okay, well then go ahead.
All right, my bad is college football. So Brian Kelly, Notre Dame has one loss and is currently 6th in the playoff rankings, right? The teams ahead of them, Oklahoma State plays Baylor. They could lose that game. Michigan plays Iowa. They could lose that game. Alabama plays Georgia. They could lose that game. So Notre Dame is still in the thick of the college football playoff standings. Like, they could easily make the college football playoffs. Instead, Brian Kelly takes a job at LSU, texts his players and says he's leaving, and says, peace out, good luck, best of luck to you. Like, what is going on? Like,
yeah, how do athletic departments not keep a lid on that and say, hey, quit calling our guy in the middle of a season? Why is there not like a college tampering rule for coaches like that?
There should be.
So you know what the problem is they moved the signing day up like a few years ago. The signing day is in the before the season ends now. So all these teams are firing their coaches so that they can get their new coaches in to sign players. So it's screwed everything up.
And that's what happened with Lincoln Riley too. Is I can't remember. There's at least two 5-star recruits and one 4-star recruit has already decommitted from Oklahoma, and that's a problem. That should it's a scummy thing to do from the coach. There's nothing wrong with taking another job, but doing it when your team has potentially one game left, that's the scummy thing to do.
I just can't believe why you would leave. I can't believe, first of all, why you would go to LSU. And I understand LSU's in the SEC, and that's the dream. But LSU is also playing against Bama, and Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference. So you have a way better chance of making the college football playoff at Notre Dame than you do LSU. But like they're just, they have a chance to make the playoffs, and like 10 coaches have made the college football playoffs. He's one of them. And you just said peace out. I'm gonna go to LSU and see you guys later. Catch you later. Like,
well, here's the deal. Brian Kelly's made the playoffs with Notre Dame. He's gotten walloped about each time. He's taken what the best opportunity is for him. It's LSU. It's a more, you have a better chance to win at LSU than you do at Notre Dame.
but why? I don't know. I guess I don't.
It is bad for college football.
Maybe LSU would move on if he said, "Talk to me when the season's over." Maybe they would just move on and hire somebody else. I don't know. It's
is
just
bad
a
for
scummy
college
thing
football.
to do. And that text message to his players, man, that just rubbed me the wrong way. Like,
But it's not the first time he's done it. He left Cincinnati before their bowl game when they were 12-0. There, however many years ago. Like,
Yep.
He's done it before, and it's man, shame on you. So this comes out, right? And so if you're a recruit, let's say 2 years from now, all right, well, let's say Nick Saban retires. How scared are you that Brian Kelly is going to jump ship? Like, hey, I just committed to you. You're going to leave. You're going to go take the Alabama job, or you're going to go take the USC job, or you're going to go take Miami. Like, you're going to go somewhere. It's like, screw you, man. Like, or Georgia, go to Georgia. Like, he's just going to hop from a good situation to a better situation, if that's a thing. Like, I would be scared to play for the guy if I was in that position, because it's like, well, I'm committing to this school, one, but you're part of this school and a big reason why I'm committing to the school. And if you're not going to be here, piss on that. I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the, about half the reason you pick a school is for the coach and the program. Like, the school being where it's located, what it is, what the prestige of the school is a big factor. But, you have to have a coach that you trust and want to play for, and that is a big thing. Like, I wouldn't, that would be a huge red flag for me, like Carl just said. You got a coach with a track record of jumping ship, and no matter how much he tells you in your sit-down visits and whatnot, that's something you got to have in the back of your mind.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive. I don't know what the right answer is, but these guys, they're supposed to be leaders of young men, like that. Like, that's what they're supposed to be doing, and I just don't feel like that's what they're doing right now. I know money talks, and I know he's doing what's best for his family and all that. I don't know what the right answer is. It just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, but if you're LSU, why the hell would you not say, hey, why don't you just take a few weeks and finish out your season at Notre Dame? It's not in LSU's best interest to make a decision right now. You're sitting at, what are they, 6-6? Something like that?
It actually is in
The
their best
reason is
interest
because of the signing day. That's why.
Yeah, they need, if they're going to sign him,
They want to sign.
they need him. He's working for LSU right now. Like, he's already started.
And so another thing I was thinking about too is, with that whole thing, is like, he only addressed the players in person for 4.5 minutes, I think is what ESPN or somewhere said, like, in person, after he sent the text message out. And so, those kids give their heart and soul to that guy, that program, but that guy is the leader of that program. And for you to only get 4.5 minutes as a peace out, like, it's just scummy. There's no other way around it. It's just,
I know it sounds cliche, but these are college kids. You're right. And I think it says a lot about your character. I mean, not that I really know Brian Kelly that much, but it's just a bad look. I mean, these are college kids. You should be setting a good example. We were all in college once. Those guys, college coaches are more than just coaches. They're role models.
100%.
And that's a horrible look. It's awful.
I saw a quote, and this is shifting to Lane Kiffin, or not Lane Kiffin, Oklahoma to USC. What's
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley said that USC is the meta of college football, and I think ESPN or somebody tweeted it. One of his players quote tweeted it, and he said the same thing about Oklahoma last week.
Yeah,
like, that's just how it feels. That's seriously how it feels. Like, it's just like, you're just a stopping point. Yeah, good luck, kids.
Speaking of goodbyes, I know that Coach O is a player's coach from LSU, and he was kind of forced out, and he's a wild card. I would probably love playing for him, just how wild and rambunctious he is. So I'm sure he took his time to address his players in the 2 or 3 weeks that he's known that he was out. But when asked at that last game press conference about what
Daggers.
yeah, he said I'm getting on a plane, I'm flying to Destin tonight, and I'm going to my beach house with my girlfriend. Go Tigers, peace out. And that's classic to me because that's a dude. He's accomplished a lot. He won a Natty 2 years ago. Has been a great coach. Has lived a life as a coach. He's was nearing the end of his career anyway. Has made his money. Not a lot left to prove, and just kind of it's like the storybook rode off into the sunset. Didn't have the Natty to end it on. Had a 6-6 year, whatever they are, but it's pretty cool. His time came to an end. I'm sure he didn't Brian Kelly him and had a long meeting with his players saying, "Hey, this is what's happening," and then literally at the end of it was like, "Go Tigers! I'm going to Destin. Look at my hot girlfriend in a bikini."
Oh, man.
All right. For time constraints, I think we're going to wrap up and not do futures this week, but you guys can go ahead and, leave us a comment about what you think it should be upcoming. But Cody, I did tell you why the Washington football team's going to lose. So there's a guy on Reddit, real quick, named Pong is Lame. He predicted the season with weighted coin flips based on moneyline odds to start the season. He's currently 11-0 with the Raiders, right? And he has predicted the Raiders to beat the Washington football team, or the coin, sorry, not him, the coin has predicted the Raiders to beat the Washington football team. So don't get your hopes on that. That coin was hot preseason. And just to be fair, the coin is within 2 games of 27 of the 32 records in the NFL. So the coin is on a streak. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave you. Until then, be good out there, sit Ben Roethlisberger, and tell your grandma. Peace.